All right, well, welcome everybody to our February Forgotten Grapes Wine Club virtual tasting. We are so excited to have Shelley Lindgren and Kitty Oestlien with us from Tansy Wines. Before we get underway and chat with them about their delicious Italian varietals, of course, we want to let you all know that if you have not yet purchased your tickets for the Festival of Forgotten Grapes, that is up and running. The tickets are available right now. They are the early bird special has ended, so the general admission tickets are up to $69, but you can use the code FOFG10 to get $10 off. So definitely utilize that. We do also have a very, very limited number. I think we're down to like our last 10, Allison, is that right, of the VIP tickets? No, not even that. We're done. Two VIP tickets left. So if you want to get the early access, be there for the seminar that we're doing, get that extra hour of tasting just with the other VIPs. Definitely get those tickets as soon as you can. We are now up to 56 wineries, which is pretty amazing.
55 with 2 pending.
Okay, so we'll split the difference and call it 56. But yeah, it's gonna be quite an event, bigger than last year, slightly larger venue, one block up, so same location, more or less. But we're very, very excited. I know we've already got a few people who've got their tickets. So yeah, let your friends know. And we are expecting a big crowd with lots of wineries. We should definitely cross 100 unique varietals this year, which I am so excited about. Cool. Also keep an eye out next week for the March Forgotten Grapes offer, which will go out on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So just keep an eye out for that. But for now, we are talking Italian, we're talking Tansy Wines, and we're talking with Shelley Lindgren and Kitty Oestlien, whose name I just learned to pronounce today. It's the most Norwegian I've ever spoken in my life. Allison, of course, knew about them and kind of brought them to our attention. They participated in the festival last year. So, Allison, if you want to formally introduce our guests and tell us a little bit about Tansy Wines.
Absolutely. Well, I'll do a very quick introduction and I'll let them introduce Tansy Wines. But as Southern Californians, you may not be as familiar with how well-known Shelley is up north. But if you've traveled up there, you probably, or most likely, have heard of a restaurant called A16, or in the old days, SPQR. Shelley is the mastermind behind it. Amazing pizzas that now has, one, two, three, four, five venues and a sixth coming. San Francisco, East Bay, Oakland Airport, Tokyo, Ferry Building, and coming in Napa. Did I get them all? Okay. So great pizzas, and at these restaurants they're Italian themed, and Shelley introduced lots of obscure Italian varieties to the Bay Area and to California. So it only seemed fitting that, because most people who work in the restaurant industry at some point will make wine. When she started making wine, she focused on Italian grapes. And I will let them tell the story, but Kitty is from Australia, became friends with Shelley, and together they have launched this amazing brand focusing on Italian varieties, some of our lovely forgotten grapes. And Shelley and Kitty, I'll let you guys tell the rest of the story from there. And, I guess,
yes,
Chris always starts out with one question. So
it's true. Before we begin, and we're excited to hear all about your journey to getting Tansy Wines to where it is today. But we always start by asking, what is the most memorable bottle of wine you've ever opened? So let's start with you, Kitty.
That is like the hardest question ever.
How do you pick one?
The hardest question ever is tell me 3 fun facts about yourself, because in my tasting room I have that on our club member sheet, and it's the hardest thing for people to do ever. They're like, I don't have any fun facts about myself.
Oh, it's so awesome. Well, I will say this. I don't know of all time, but I always think of like what's the most recent. And we a couple of weeks ago, Shelley was up in Napa and we had her team from Tokyo over from Japan. They were helping test all the new equipment in the new A16 Napa location. And we had a bit of a cook up. They cooked all these amazing dishes at like a home cooked dinner at our house.
Mm.
And I went into my cellar and it's got a lot of Napa wine because we love to support also local wineries in Napa. But you know, we pulled out a 2004 La Spinetta, and it was 2004 vintage, and it just was singing still, you know, or 20 odd years later. So it was just so delicious with the A16 food. So I'd say that would probably be up there for me at the moment.
That's such a
See,
great
you
one.
had an answer and you got some great, you know, publicity in it for you. So well done there. How about you, Shelley?
So having been a sommelier for over 35 years now, like it's something, well, I talk about a lot, but sometimes you realize that just being a part of this world of food and wine, how we're able to taste and drink so many amazing things all the time. So at the restaurant, I will do pairings and I'll be surprised which wines actually end up matching best with the food. But I learned about this. I remember in the 90s working at Fleur de Lis, and the first time I tried a 1959 Latour Bordeaux, and I was just hadn't had anything that old, but I was studying wine, taking my exams, and I was realizing that was like a moment where I was like, okay, this is where Mother Nature comes together in a bottle, and why vintage is important, and this is a first growth and the history behind it and things. But I was working in French fine dining at the time, but when I went to one of my first experiences in Italy, it was all about food and wine pairings, and I remember having a Sagrantino from, at that time it was Arnaldo Coprai was just being imported, and he had this anniversary wines with such a small area of Umbria, and having that with the local mushrooms and pastas, I was like, porcinis um and this pasta was just like, I came back home and I signed up for cooking school. And then I went to
Really
So
life-changing
I was
wine.
gonna say not only
yeah,
memorable, but yeah, life-changing as
I did.
well.
Because sometimes when you think the simplest things, like they're really like more complex when it's just ingredient driven. And part of living in California is focusing on farming, and a lot of times people forget that making wine is farming.
Mhm.
Like grapes are agricultural, and if you're in Italy, usually you find olive trees, or we live in this Mediterranean climate as well. So it's a slightly different because soil and everything, but what can grow here is really similar. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, we're going to be kicking things off
Yay.
tonight with your 2023 Vermentino from the Carneros region. So if you're drinking along with us or just drinking alone at home, open up the Vermentino and give it a taste. Shelley, I kind of want to start with you to find out about your journey into the wine world. How did you get involved in the food and wine business? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to pursue, or did you have other plans for life and then things took an interesting direction?
It was interesting because I mean, I'm from a big family, so I started working at a young age, and was sort of like the hospitality side of life really fit with me as a person. And for anything involving service, I feel like it's just so rewarding. So I really took it to heart that I was really a young sommelier, and at the time there were so few sommeliers that I didn't actually know it could and would be a career.
Mhm.
So
Did you
so
grow up
I
in the
start
Bay Area?
I grew up in North Bay, and I was born in San Francisco, and I spent some of my childhood in Hawaii as well. Um, but which is very geared around hospitality. It has a culture too, and it's always like reminds me of like what is strength, being kind and like loving food, sharing wine, sharing food, like it is. So it's really been you know, a driving beacon for me this whole time. But so I started with French restaurants. I worked for Hubert Keller, Julian Serrano, who had Massas. He just closed. Picasso, who's one of the first celebrity chefs in Vegas way back in the day, and Roland Passot. And so I really was brought under their wings, and they actually didn't have formal sommeliers on their floors. Massas did, but in fact, I saw John Coonan last week, and we happened to be in the same dinner, and he was like one of the original maitre d' sommeliers there, which is it's like a very small world, but it's always full. It seems full circle. So I became a sommelier at Fleur de Lis, and I worked there for most of the 90s. And then when I was studying for the exams, I came across Italy, and only 3 of the 20 regions were really represented on the exam. And they're like, don't worry about the rest. They won't be on the exam. But, you know, once you start learning the stories, the histories, and like the beauty of all these grapes that literally is perfectly said, forgotten, they weren't given as much focus, but they, you know, have once had these 4,000-year-old histories, or whichever way you want to talk about it. But then about the same time A16 opened 2004 is you started seeing a few of the wines starting to come in, like Ariana Okapinski's vintage was not like right around the same time. So it's definitely like this generation of the south of Italy and lesser known grapes. They're not really if you're in Italy, it feels normal to drink a Vermentino. In fact, it was one of my first loves of Italy, and Sardinia was the first place I ever went in Italy.
Oh, wow.
because of Vermentino. I'm that geeky. You will learn this in those hours.
Yes, I think we're already there.
Okay.
You've already name dropped about 9 things
We'll
that
just
the
get over
common
that
person
ice
doesn't quite
breaking.
know. No, it's good. It's good. Let's stick a pin in that, because I want to find out about Kitty's you know, evolution into wine. Kitty, you grew up in Australia, and your family was not originally from, but you moved to the Barossa Valley. So were you kind of introduced to wine there, or did that happen later in life when you kind of came over to the States?
Probably both, actually. So my family was one of the first families to immigrate to the Barossa Valley way back when, but my dad's whole family grew up there, and there's always been a very strong love and interest and curiosity in wine. I mean, actually, still, my dad comes out for harvest. Shelley knows this, and he's doing the basket press for our cab when he comes out. He just he's so into it, but he's a scientist by vocation. But I actually worked in tech for a long time, and always just had huge interest in food and wine, probably like everybody on this call. And it really wasn't until this project with Tansy came up that, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, I studied WSET, and I was always interested in going to restaurants. And you know, growing up, my dad was always at the dinner table going, now, is this taste this? Is this A, a Syrah, B, a Cabernet, C, and
Wow.
so we were just always surrounded by it. But yeah, I think I've always been interested. And so Shelley and I became friends in San Francisco, and it was timely to start a small wine project with also Megan, who's our winemaker, not in this call, but
She's so great.
part
Phenomenal.
of the team. Yeah. And it's
It'd
honestly
be weird if she wasn't great and you were, you know, slagging her on this call.
but I do feel blessed, because I'd say like wine is very different to technology, working in tech, although I get to use some of those things for our website and labeling and some of those skills that I learned. But it's just you just have to love doing it, and we do, and it's we're in our 5th vintage now, and I really enjoyed learning more about the full winemaking process. Like, I'm not too far from Forestville, where we make our wine with Megan. So, you know, being there for all the press and visiting the vineyards and understanding like the process of the agriculture. And then, you know, the other part is like, you know, starting to finesse some of the styles, which, you know, and honestly learning so much from Shelley. Shelley's, I think one of your questions later might be about mentors. I had a little peek at those. But I've learned a huge amount by working with Shelley on this project. And but it's really fun. So
prior to this, neither of you had dabbled in making wine before.
No, I did a label with Jeff Porter with our friends from Grifalco in Basilicata, the Peachines. And but it was you know, in the early parts of COVID, and Jeff lives in Italy now, and we were just friends when he lived here, and he's in New York. But he called me because he was going to open a barbecue restaurant in New York, and we ended up being like with this Aglianico del Voltere. So yeah,
And I could see it with some good pork.
exactly. No,
and he
but
comes out here to LA from time to time because his wife's mother lives here, and I swim with her in the
yes.
mornings.
No, really. Oh my gosh, they're great. It's vice versa with Kitty, because there's so much of this business that she takes on that me having like the restaurant life is like it takes it's really a team effort on this in every way. So
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. I want to ask a little bit about the division of labor. Before that, how did the two of you meet, and who broached the idea about eventually starting your own wine label? Because that's a pretty big ask for, you know, one of the other, or at least to come to an agreement on something like that.
Well, I'll jump in. Well, we were honestly, we were we were friends, and we it was actually during 2020. So I don't know if anyone can rewind back to that like less favorable time in our history, but you know, A16 never closed their doors. They kept operating, and I was doing some work at the time across like a few other restaurants, because I mean, honestly, the world was shut down. So I was like some folks like from Anna Weinberg from Tosca, and she also had Park Tavern at the time. But we're just talking about, oh, how do we get things, keep things open, get on delivery. And then I kind of jokingly said to Shelley, I'm like, now's the time to like package that pizza dough or that amazing chili oil that you have and sell it through Costco or something. And that,
yeah.
but we were kind of talking about at the time doing, we both loved, we have a shared passion around Italian varietals, obviously. And also just with starting businesses. I'd been working in tech, and she'd been obviously starting an empire with A16, and we talked about starting a wine label, but also knowing what it takes to start something and do it well and do it for a long period of time. We just started with 300 cases, and we just picked Vermentino. The Vermentino that you're drinking, this was the very first wine that we decided that we wanted to make. That was in our very first vintage. We also made the rosé that you're also going to have tonight, and also we make a Pinot Noir, and they have different stories around how we figured that out. But that's, I mean, Shelley, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes.
It was kind of like, let's see how it goes, and 5 years later we're still here.
Nice.
Well, and at that time it was like creative, you know, we talked about doing canned wine and things, and it was at the end of the day we realized just bottling the wine was the best way to go.
And knowing you wanted Italian varieties, did you know exactly where you wanted to go because of a few people that were doing it already, or was it a harder search than you thought?
Well, so Megan Glab, it was a sommelier turned winemaker from her family has a restaurant in Monterey called Passion Fish. And then she worked as a sommelier, and we bonded over Fiano. So she would come into A16 and drink Fiano, like, because we with what we were able to do with the list is go a little deeper than trying to have everything. You know, you can't have all the wines in the world on one list. So having a focus on Southern Italy, we really have tasted through most producers and understand what we want to offer guests, because, you
And
know,
she and her husband have a project that has some Italian varieties in
oh
it.
yeah, that's exactly. So this is what happened, and then it just was fit for all of us. And then she went with Kitty, and then it kind of took a life of its own, and it's been a great experience and match. We just can adore her more.
And I should back up because I've known Shelley for a long time off and on throughout my time in the wine business and doing events up in San Francisco, but it was actually a year and a half ago that Chris came up with me to Napa for the Slow Wine Guide party, because I contribute to that guide. And that's when we found out that they make wine, because they're in the Slow Wine Guide, and we got to taste their wines. And Chris and I were immediately enamored. We were in the beginning stages of creating Festival of Forgotten Grapes, and we're like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
So fun.
Hopefully they'll have us. Please have us. Please have us.
And funny enough, it was back then in 2024 that we scheduled this date for this Forgotten Grapes Wine Club.
It's
That
true.
is ironic. That's awesome. And here we are, about to dive in.
A year and a half later.
We are advanced planners. That's what we do. So let's talk a little bit about this Vermentino. Obviously, Shelley, this is a varietal that's close to your heart, having gone to Sardinia to search out Vermentino. Was it difficult to find it here in California? You know, I know there are pockets here and there. It seems to be pretty prevalent, like especially in like the Sierra Foothills area. This is obviously Carneros, but you know, what made you decide you were going to do California versions of Italian varietals rather than, you know, importing from Italy or kind of starting a label?
We talked about doing that too in the beginning, but and you never know where things could go. But with Megan, she has, with her focus on the same all organically farmed, we tend to lean on the lower alcohol side of wines, just in terms of the crispness, the dryness, and the minerality, because fortunately we can get ripeness here more than a lot of places in the world. And so but the Vermentino from here is at Las Brisas in Carneros. It means the breeze in Spanish, and it's right off of San Pablo Bay. There's always like a breeze, and so Vermentino likes to be maritime. It likes elevation and minerality and that lemon lime flavor that you get. But also Letty Teague wrote a great article last year, and talked with a lot of our friends about Vermentino, and she called it the new Chardonnay, because it grows so well in California as a grape.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you'll see a lot more in the market in the coming years, which is amazing. And I completely agree. I feel like when you taste it, you'll see that longevity. Our first vintage was 2019, and I had one about a couple weeks ago. I found a bottle that I actually didn't realize I had, and you open it and it tasted so fresh. I mean, almost exactly like the current release. I was so pleasantly surprised. So they definitely, with that acidity, can age.
Yeah,
I've
that's
heard
amazing
a
for a
couple of
5.5-year-old.
winemakers up in the Bay Area, a couple like Mick Unti,
Yeah.
Dan from Massican. They
Yep.
all think Vermentino is the future.
Oh, for sure.
I
They're
was
our friends.
when
Yeah.
we were looking for the grape to start our Paso Seco project with, Vermentino was, you know, on the short list of grapes we're looking for. We
Oh,
just
cool.
could not find enough here in the Paso Robles area to justify what we needed to get that first. So we jumped to sparkling Grenache Blanc. But given that it has that crossover appeal of being both a Rhone varietal under the name Roll, and of course Vermentino in Italy, it really suited our needs and something we're looking for in the future. So I agree that it is a fantastic grape that really thrives in this environment. You know, you hope that it just becomes like the next Albarino, one of those grapes that caught fire and picks up, instead of like the next Cinsault, which is another grape that people should be growing in this area, but for some reason has not caught fire yet. Yeah. So take us through. I know Megan's not here, but I suspect you two have some pretty good knowledge. So take us through your production of this all stainless steel fermentation, I imagine, on it to really capture that crispness and kind of showcase those maritime notes of the wine?
Yeah, I can share a little bit about this. So we talk a lot about style with Megan. Actually, one reason we love working with Megan is that the ethos that she has in the winery with her own wines is very similar to, well, it's a direct overlap with what we care about. So I think a couple of general things is we source only from vineyards that practice organic and all sustainable farming, which I think is really important. And you know, you can see more and more of that happening in Northern California for sure.
Mhm.
And then in the winemaking process, there's zero additives. So we use only natural yeast that's already on the grapes when they go into fermentation. And there's no temperature control actually in the winery. Our winery is in Forestville, and it used to be the old Arno Roberts winery before I think that they moved, and but it's beautifully cool there anyway. And then they're really moving around the tanks and fermentations. Like sometimes they move them outside if they're not fast enough, and they move them back inside. So there's a lot of hand holding, which is I think gives like a real nuance to the wines. And so this is the 2023 vintage was done. It was a whole cluster press, and it was done in stainless steel and neutral French oak, and then it's only sits for a few weeks before we bottle it, generally in January. So it's nice and fresh.
I think what's really nice about it as a Vermentino goes, if you taste other Vermentinos, as delicious as they are, they can be very much in the style of like a Sauvignon Blanc, where they're a lot more, they're high in acid and, you know, not linear or structured, but just not as, this has the acidity and all that freshness, but it has a nice roundness. It lingers on the palate. And you can think of how this would pair with food because it's just enjoyable. It's not something, you know, you take a sip and you kind of want a little more because it lingers and lasts. So
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
No, and I find, you know, Vermentino is one of those grapes that you do see it quite a bit in stainless, but a little neutral oak I find really can help it out and kind of round it out, give it a little bit more of a richness. Sometimes even a little Lee stirring, kind of like you know, a Sir Lee style, like you might with a Chardonnay to add a little depth and flavor to it. Are you striving, or is Megan striving to, you know, really sort of capture that Sardinian style, or are you really trying to express more of a California version of Vermentino on this?
Our goal is to taste like one of the things we have is we've tried a lot of these wines in the world, whether it's a Vermentino from Liguria or Sardinia, or even the south of France from parts of Tuscany. And I think that if you put this next to some of our Italian favorites, there's parts of it that is identifiable as California, but it really trying to do homage to the grape too. And a lot of that is in the farming and when it's picked. And this is what Kitty just mentioned about the native yeast and how it's treated. It's very much about the quality of the fruit. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's talk food pairings. Shelley, we'll just sort of give you the runway if you want at this point.
So every day, this is what I do.
You can mute yourself if you want.
I
It's
feel
fine.
so at home to do this.
You feel at home, but it's pretty special for us to have like a personal sommelier right here giving us all the tips.
What I like to see with Pam and with the aprons and you're in the kitchen cooking, getting ready, that's perfect. Thank you for that. Because if anybody's seen anything about Julia Child, this is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have a aperitif of some sort, enjoying your cooking, enjoying the whole process of preparing the meal. And so this is you kind of need a wine that's gonna refresh you and brighten you up and make you feel, you know, revived. And this is one of the kinds of wines that does that with this acidity and minerality. And it's also extremely food friendly. So if you have, there's two things about a wine like this. You could match it with something like, let's say you're having a dressing of some sort with some vegetables. Right now it's asparagus season. So Kitty and I were already talking about how we love this wine with asparagus. And you could do, you know, asparagus could be the main part of an appetizer, of a salad that you blanch, but usually you put something with lemon on it, or you know, you could put it with the pasta and put it in with fish. And I think that when you add something like asparagus to a dish, you're also adding a lot of acidity. And sometimes some people think that things like asparagus and artichokes aren't the best wine friendly foods, but those are a big part of my personal diet, and I love wine too. So Italian grapes like this Vermentino are classic for the vegetables that we love, and they're also, there's a nice ripeness to it too. So as we get towards stone fruit season and things, but I think you know, if you want to have this with oysters or clam pasta or all kinds of things, something with capers that have that saltiness, or olives. But I do think that that it's a great aperitivo wine. So something that you're starting a meal with is the, or in an afternoon. It's a great lunch wine too. Is that, so we made 138 cases of this, and it's at 12.3 alcohol, and it was a very generous season. It was really warm at harvest, and it was a long growing season. So remember, there's some heat spikes and stuff like right at harvest time. So but we still maintain that acidity. Has everyone tried the Vermentino? It's,
I think they have. Yeah. Did you guys have issues in 23 with late ripening? Because it was a very cool year. I remember here in Paso Robles. It was a very late ripening year, and we had a lot of cool clouds and cooler weather in May and June, which meant that you didn't really get
so cold.
the more
It's so
intense
much
heat.
colder. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Until
Yeah, it was a late, right? It was a late bud break year, but then it's like there was these heat spikes.
Yeah.
But the, you know, things like when we also make a Cabernet, and that you know, Megan's holding out to make sure that she gets enough ripeness on that Cabernet and not picking it too soon, made it actually like even more red fruit and super elegant. So it's just like kind of that experience of winemaking about when to pick and what we're trying to achieve in the wine. That's that is a true talent, honestly.
Yeah.
When,
Yeah.
when life gives you lemons, make limoncello, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
The other,
Beautiful.
I'll pass on one more pairing because we're still in winter, but we're coming into, it's starting to get a little bit warmer. But if you're ever drinking this in the spring, Shelley put me onto this. It is so good with crudité, like and hummus, or like
Yeah.
wheat hummus. And if you just put like crunchy vegetables at, like, you know, celery and carrot and radishes, and you just, this wine is so good like that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I totally like things with like feta or goats. So the high acid cheeses too is yay.
I think you've named every single food group for this. So it's quickly a very
diverse.
Well, you learned it here first, folks. If you want to be a world-class sommelier, just mention every single food group and people will go, oh, you got it. Absolutely. You know,
we talk about fennel,
including starting with the hardest food to pair with wine, which is asparagus.
Yeah. We done. We did it.
At this point, I'm just going to say that every wine pairs with asparagus and let people figure it out for themselves.
It might not be a pleasant experience, but
they won't know until later. They probably
would it work with artichokes on that same note?
Yes.
Or too bitter?
No, it will totally work with artichokes. But you know, I mean, I guess it depends on how you have the artichokes, because I mean, we have the classic where California style where we steam them and eat the fronds and dip them and stuff is perfect for that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So when in doubt, drink Vermentino.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I love it. I'm going to write that down.
Now we're doing rosé next.
Oh, okay. I thought we said Fiano, but we can do rosé next. Absolutely.
You started with rosé, which is why we're you know.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
The
I'm
other
just
thing is,
drinking. I'm just here for the conversation and the pretty ladies and the good wine.
the Vermentino has the tansy flower on it. So all of the labels have a different flower.
So that was going to kind of kick off my next section, was I wanted to find out how the Tansy brand came along, because you clearly, focused on Italian varietals, California versions of Italian varietals. So we've gone with a name of a wildflower for the brand. Explain.
Well, I'll start, and I'm sure Shelley's got more color, but I mean, honestly, we were talking about what to call this project that we had, and Shelley was driving back or to or from Boonville when she was doing an A16 pop-up there during those years of 2020 and 2021. And we were talking about, we're doing Italian varietals, but we're in California. And Shelley's like, oh my God, I'm just driving past a field full of tansy flowers. And I'm like Googling, and I'm like, tansy, I love we love flowers. That's another thing we have in common, like flower arranging, flowers, all of that. But the tansy flower actually grows in and around the vineyards, both in Northern California and also right through Italy. And so that was really a way for us to connect these two beautiful geographic wine growing regions with something that I think also wildflowers are beautiful and enduring. And so there's something when they're growing alongside the vines, and when you can see the vines thriving, honestly, all the wildlife, the flora and fauna around them are thriving too. So you'll often see wildflowers by the side of the road, or at the end of sometimes people plant a bunch of roses at the end of the cab vineyards. We see that a lot in Napa as well. But that's a little bit of, Shelley, do you want to add anything behind?
Are tansies a type of wildflower or a name for wildflower?
So the tansy is this very specific wildflower on the Vermentino. And then and this is also we work with the female botanical society and these local artists, and they actually will go and they'll pick the specimens. So we'll be like, okay, we're doing we're working with, we're doing the Heringer Vineyard with the rosé now. And so we'll look at wildflowers that are growing in and around there. That's the Ruche Conda. I think it's like Farewell to Spring is the name of that beautiful pink flower on the rosé bottle. So Kristen Jacob is an amazing botanical artist, and she painted those with watercolor, and then we get that a high res and we put them on the label. So we do something different for every label.
They're really beautiful.
Linked to the vineyard. Yeah.
This is Kitty. This is like we talked about it, and then this is what comes up at the end, and I'm like, this is amazing. We have lots of discussions, but we really wanted each wine to have its own identity. And flowers, it's part of that wheel of tasting wine as well, where and the thought that there's so much going on in the vineyard with the grapes, and that's really important, and you can tell a lot from a vineyard with what's growing in there too. Like some people will plant the artichokes for the nitrogen and to put in the soil, and really keep a healthy soil. So yeah, this is the Aglianico is something near and dear to us, and it's interesting because this is a grape that could easily be a 15% alcohol wine if we wanted it to be, with a darker, deeper color and more fullness to it. But what you are getting is and the reason Aglianico and Nebbiolo are compared sometimes is because of the high acid, high tannin. Obviously they're different in a lot of ways as well, but with those two in mind, that these wines age forever. And this is 11.8% alcohol. And it comes from up by the Delta in Yolo County from a family run organic vineyards that they sell most of their grapes, but they're certified organic. And it's a beautiful wine country that is still like less traveled unless you really live up in that area. It's all like kind of delta, which is
Yeah, all of the vineyards are basically on islands within the delta, which is pretty amazing. And the fact that Heringer has been there for, I think we've worked with a couple of wineries that source mainly Chenin Blanc from Heringer, which is what they're kind of known for, but they do have a lot of more obscure varietals, things that were planted back in the
Sorry.
1920s, 1930s. What was that?
Sorry.
Okay.
It popped up on my computer.
That's okay. But yeah, things that, back in the day when it was the Italian immigrants who came in and brought their cuttings with them, these were the common grapes that were grown in California. And then since the 1970s have kind of gotten pushed out by the more traditional, Bordeaux, Burgundy collective up there. But it's always fascinating to drink them. And yeah, Clarksburg is one of those interesting areas where they're much more of a net exporter of grapes than an importer. There are very few actual wineries in Clarksburg. They're mainly in that old sugar mill building. But they're putting out some fantastic fruit, especially their Chenin Blanc. But this Aglianico is just a beautiful example of that.
But one of those things, to your point, Chris, is those typical or common grapes that we have now were not common
right
at the time. And the reason they were planted had more to do with not because of popularity at a time. They grew because of their ability to grow, because of the the blind tasting, things like that. And these poor grapes, just prohibition was not nice.
No, but yeah, take us through the production of this rosé. How long of a maceration are you doing this? The color on it is beautiful, and it's kind of in that sort of rusty sort of salmon color, not too pale like some of the French rosés you get, but at the same time, not like some of the Italian rosados, which can get into that like Ferrari or fire engine red.
So true. We made a little bit more of this as 350 cases of the 2023. And so it's just, for us, this is like a summertime wine, even though we drink rosé all year round, and we always have a few at the restaurant by the glass as well, because it's so versatile with food. But especially when you go to Napa in the summer, or like different parts, San Francisco has a pretty, it might as well be winter in the summer when we're,
Right.
here. But we have it, with summertime light grilled watermelon salads and fruits and tomatoes. It just has this very nice dry finish, so it's extremely food friendly. And it's like it's meant, you can drink it on its own, but it's best with food, so I think.
Shelley, given your predilection for unusual varietals and your love of the Southern Italian, have you thought about, was there any thought given to doing this as a red Aglianico and kind of showcasing that grape? Is that something that you do produce? Are you looking to produce, or why did you decide rosé to lean into instead of a red Aglianico?
Well, I think Megan, she makes an Aglianico rosé, and she had tried to make a red from it before, but really fell in love with it as a rosé, and that was all Kitty and I needed to hear. We were like, we love rosé. This is a unique grape, and that's something that we didn't want something that would be, we weren't trying to make raspberry jello. We wanted to make something that was a little more dry. And there's a lot of like dried rose petals, potpourri. It's delicate, but it has a like pretty firm backbone. So this is something that if you didn't, you want to drink it in a year or two, it would taste fresh. It wouldn't be something that would only be it wouldn't lose its structure, is what I mean.
Yeah. No, it's got a lot of those kind of earthier flavors, a little more savory notes to it, I've noticed. It's almost a wine that, even though this is a 23, it almost tastes like it's got a little bit of age to it, which is fun. I took a sip of this, and my first thought was almost immediately like Carpaccio.
Oh,
Um,
I love it. Yes.
yes, with
Yeah.
just it's got that great acidity, but there's kind of that savoriness that I think would go so well with the fattiness and the richness of a nice thinly sliced carpaccio with some arugula, some fresh Parmigiano Romano.
Or
and,
some
Yeah, it has a
Fastona.
yum. There's that umami character that I think with sushi or things with like seaweed or tuna and like avocados, if you like avocados, things like that, where it'll cut through it, but it's just like a really like really stand up but not overpower dishes that you want a
Mhm.
little bit more body, but not as big. And
Yeah. How many total cases are you guys producing these days?
I think that, total, we're at around 2,000 cases now.
Okay.
But we really are we're not trying to grow fast, to be honest. We're still quite selective with just like finding individual vineyards that we really love, and that sort of have the farming practices, and also the varietals are something that we're all really excited about. Yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
Nice. And how many different SKUs or how many different wines do you guys produce?
7 different wines now.
7 different wines. Nice.
yeah.
Are you
Yes.
gonna keep it there, or do you want to expand, or is it really kind of on an ad hoc basis? Like when you find the right varietal in the right location, you'll move on it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what's very interesting is that, I think the Heringer Vineyard where they're growing Aglianico, they have more there are many sort of vines planted there where, there's enough for a few producers to work with those grapes. But a lot of them, like the Fiano that we'll taste, there's only like 6 acres of Fiano planted in all of Sonoma. And the vineyard that we work with has I think 1.5
Yeah.
acres, and we're one of 2 vintners that work with that vineyard, and so
Oh, wow.
really limited production. It's only 90 cases, and it can depending on the year and how much yield there is. Sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's higher. So I think we'll probably, in saying all that, I think and we also really love not that we're purists, but it's so beautiful to see these varietals like 100% their own and seeing how they're expressed in Northern California. I think the blends, the red blend that we'll try tonight, I think that it'd be fun to play more with blends. But we're also doing for the first time this year, we're doing a Nero Dabbler, actually.
Mm.
So that we're really excited about, from Fox Hill Vineyard in Mendocino, and working with Brock Sellers, who own that vineyard now. And yeah, but we're really excited to have some vines allocated to Tansy and seeing Nero Dabbler come through. So I think it will be in saying all of that, I think we're trying to be thoughtful about what additional wines we add, and growing in the right way.
And you're doing the Italian varieties as well as Pinot Noir. And what other non-Italian varieties are you doing?
Just 2, right, Shelley? That Pinot vineyard that and a lot of it is honestly the connections that we've found through the journey in winemaking. And do you want to talk about the Pinot Noir vineyard a little bit and that connection, Shelley?
This pop-up we did in Boonville was 6 weeks. One weekend we had to cancel because of wildfires, driving through Sonoma to get to Boonville. So it's like you have to drive all the way up to Cloverdale and then take the 128 to Boonville's like one of the first towns that it's actually, you pass by it and you're like, I think that was a town. And it's so charming, absolutely gorgeous there. And our pop-up was across from the Boonville Hotel. They had poplar trees and they had a restaurant that had been vacated with 2 wood burning ovens, and that's what we needed. So we would prep everything and drive up there, and have a restaurant for 4 days that was outside. And almost all of Mendocino came, and all the people like our customers from the Bay Area were there too. And it just was something to do. It's something fun. Like why not try it, type of thing. But we ended up making a lot of friends, and the Signal Ridge Vineyard is owned by Roger Scomenga, who's a partner of the Boonville hotel. And the reason why the pop-up happened, he has this vineyard that is just up the hill, and I mean really far up the hill, and it's under redwood trees and overlooking the Pacific. So it's the highest elevation in Mendocino, Sonoma, and Napa.
Oh, wow.
The Pinot is, and it has this very red fruit, high, like light, delicate flavors that when we taste Pinot Noir from Europe, you find that often, and then you don't always find it in California, but it's a really magical place. And so we end up getting fruit because of Roger again. So with our friendship that was created in that pop-up, and then the Cabernet is Kitty's got a great story for that.
Yeah, but I will, without going into that full detail, but I for the Cabernet, I will say it's similar. It's personal connection, and then also just you go to these sites and you're like, okay, biodynamic, organically farmed, like the place in our Cabernet is they've moved it to be completely dry farmed as well. And
Oh, wow.
I don't know, I just like we also really we love enjoying wine. We also want to feel reasonably fresh in the morning, and I think it's really helpful actually when you're drinking wine that comes from a really great vineyard that's practicing all those things. And even in the winemaking, a lot of wines say that they're dry, but dry is a pretty loose term sometimes. And so I can definitely let you know that all of the Tansy wines we ferment to 0 residual sugar. So there's 0 residual sugar in all the wines, even the Cabernet, and which often sometimes people will leave it in the bigger reds just to build out that flavor. But it's you can feel it the next day if there's extra sugar.
Well, not extra, but I mean, there's always like a 0.00 something left. You just, it's not perceptible.
It's like a half-life. You can never truly get rid of sugar. But yes.
It just holds on for dear life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we move on to the Fiano, do each of you have a dream grape that you would love to work with, or a dream wine that you would love to make under the Tansy label?
Good one, Shelley.
You first, Kitty.
Shiraz. Is it Shiraz? Why is it Shiraz?
No, I honestly, I feel like we're making all these wines that honestly I didn't think that we'd be able to source all of these grapes in Northern California. So there's nothing that we haven't done yet that I'm really excited about the current wine.
That's
I'm
a
excited
very
too.
politic answer.
The,
but, we want the tea. Give us tea.
You know I'm geeky. You know
No, we know you.
so many.
I know you'll give us something, Shelley. It's Kitty.
No, I'm like
Kitty is playing the
just,
text communication officer.
No, I'm with Kitty on that. We're like the things that we were able to already find and create with Tansy has been like a really great experience and been super fun. We being the Southern Italian of me, is like there's a grape in Calabria called Galliopo, and they make a wine called Chiro, and it's hard enough to find from Calabria, but I think that if it grew here, they found out it was like the parent to Sangiovese, which does not grow great in California, but Galliopo on the other hand I think could I imagine
you have to do all the fun names: the Galliopo, Per La Verga, Vermentino,
Frappato is being planted.
Yes, Frappato.
Novella Mascalese is being planted. But I'm gonna bring some back in April.
I will say that somebody emailed me the other day about participating in the Festival of Forgotten Grapes, and all I got was the email that says, "Hi, I produced Frappato, ... And I was like, "Oh, you had me at Frappato. I didn't need to hear anything else."
Yeah,
that is
Frappato.
We need more Grinolino in our lives.
Yes, we do. Green
and Aglianico as well. Yes.
Aglianico.
Yeah, well, if I'm not, the green. Grignolino is not at Fox Hills. That's
No, it's
Sam-
Heights. Heights is the
Sam
one that I know
Block
got some
has Grignolino
Grignolino.
planted.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot Heights had it.
Yeah.
Napa Grignolino.
Yeah,
That's how I came to know it.
Idlewild makes a phenomenal Grignolino.
Nice.
So good.
Beautiful.
Great.
Well, speaking of forgotten grapes, it's Fiano time.
How many people know Fiano? Okay.
It's an amazing grape, incredible grape. It might be one of my all-time favorite if I had to pick one, but I can't really pick one, but it's one of the ones that not only has a great history, but it grows well in California, and it's not planted nearly as much. But I remember years and years ago, like before there was iPhones, which only came out in 2007, just want to put it out there. Knocking on Clelly Romano's door, who's one of the like grand dames of Fiano and has a crew site that's in a place called Colli de Lapio in Avellino. And so Fiano di Avellino is one of the most important whites in all of Italy. And there's regions that, because we focused a lot on the reds, but like Sicily and Campania are 2/3 white wine. And then you start thinking about other areas where there's predominantly white wine. There's a lot of incredible white grapes, but Fiano is it's way up there in terms of like what it can achieve in complexity as a wine pairing. There's high acid minerality, but there's also a richness to it. This wine actually won the blind tasting in Texom. That's the competition that's happening right now. Last year, it won the white wine of the show.
Wow.
And
Wow.
also are some sommelier friends that I've been friends with for like decades were at that. And they text me when it kept going to the next round. And they're like, did you and Kitty, did you submit your wines at Texom? They're like, they're like, so it was like a play-by-play. They were like watching it go. And it was so sweet to see like the support and the excitement. And I've heard Debbie say that story so many times. Same with Kitty, just because I was so happy that they know that we love it and that we're not like we have our circles of friends are like they like live and love these wines and pairing them with food. So to see that in a blind tasting in Texas, and you're just like,
and it won the best wine and show.
yeah.
Yeah, best white wine. It was the
Yeah.
2022. And as you know, like the
Vintage.
vintages will vary like a little bit, year to year. But it's such a great vineyard. And we just wish we could get more of it. But you're always like, wow, how did that win best white wine and show? And we only have 90 cases. Where? But you have to roll with it. This is from the Russian River Valley to it's Russian River Valley, you'll see a lot of Chardonnay planted there. And what Shelley was saying with Fiano, like Chardonnay, it's a really versatile grape. It can be made into super lean, like some of the Fianos that Shelley's introduced me to. I'm like, they're so lean and they're like vibrant and like a lot of lemon. And then they can also be really rich and they're picked later, but they maintain, you can make them like Chardonnay, like a bigger white wine that holds the acidity. And this is one of the most food-friendly wines you can get, Fiano. It literally goes with everything. You can have it with salads. You can have it with Shelley's like, oh yeah, you can do this with like all your chicken dishes and roast. I mean, I serve this all the time with friends, and it's a really big crowd pleaser. But the vineyard itself is it's actually the personal vineyard of Chris Bowland. He is long time in Russian River Valley, has his own vineyard management practice there, practicing organic farming, so works across a bunch of vineyards. This is his own vineyard, and it's a really nice spot. We do this similar to the other ones. We do this with fermentation in a split of stainless steel and neutral French oak. but then it sits in neutral French oak for 11 months in élevage. It's just to sort of give it that texture, a bit more roundness, and we sort of bottle it. It's always at the end of the summer, isn't it, Shelley? Like usually around August. So it has time to sort of get a little bit of aging and a bit more complexity.
Yeah, kind of more of a wintry white as opposed to the Vermentino, which is definitely more of a spring and summer lighter style wine.
Although this has so much acidity, I mean, I'd be drinking
Yeah.
this in the spring. I have no
Oh,
complaint.
it's appropriate for both, but it's nice to have all your seasons covered.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Exactly.
I need to start organizing my wine cellar. Like this is my spring section.
Just like you with your wardrobe.
And then you have to have those little sections where they kind of overlap, the overlapping wines. Or one shelf is just the wines year round.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Or we have that with our pets. This is our pet who's more well behaved in summer. This is our pet who's more well behaved in winter. It makes sense there. So how did you happen to come upon this vineyard? Was it word of mouth? Did you taste another wine that had been made from here? If they're only doing 6 acres and there's only 2 producers who are sourcing from it, how do you find these little nuggets?
This one is Megan. So Rhyme was actually making their Fiano from this vineyard. But then she had been working on a new project at the Las Quimas vineyard, which was several years in the making, where they replanted, they sort of like took out the grafted all Italian varietals into that new vineyard. And so she convinced them to plant Fiano and a few other things. And so it just so happened that when she started working with us, she was like, actually, I can move Rhyme to this new vineyard, and Tansy can actually start working with Bowland. And that's really the collaboration. Megan's like I think she's been working for a long time and working with vineyards to help consult and figure out like where would be the best place to start planting some of these less known varietals, but that will do really well. And so, but yeah, that's the Megan magic is how that happened.
And there's only 6 acres total of Fiano, or 6 acres total in the vineyard of the vineyard.
6 acres total in Sonoma.
Yeah.
6 acres total of Fiano.
And
Yeah.
this vineyard has just over an acre, has about an acre and a half.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and so the one that Megan is sourcing has, I imagined, a larger bulk of it.
A little bit. I want to say it may only be like 2 acres there too. Yeah. And they pour that really just for their wine club as well.
Yeah, we've I know we had the Giornata Fiano earlier, which is down here in Paso, but I think they're only
They do a great
sourcing
job.
about
Yeah.
an acre as well. So yeah, very, very small amounts of this grape. But yeah, it's remarkable just how I think there's a lot of people out there who you hear Italian whites, you think, oh, very similar profiles, like, high acidity, leaner, minerally, but this is a great example. Obviously, California versions of them, but 2 very, very different wines, and really showcases kind of the robustness of white wines in Italy, or white Italian varietals, I should say. That's probably more appropriate for this. Awesome. So we've talked about chicken dishes for this. Any other food recommendations? Alison's cracking up over there.
I'm ready to hear, because I'm like thinking salad, chicken, what else is she gonna say?
Salad chicken. We there's so many things. So this is the Fiano, even though it has a little bit more, it's a bit bolder than the Vermentino stylistically, it can go with delicate things because of that bracing acidity with oysters or like steamed mussels, or if you have kind of like say a piccata dish of any kind with fish or chicken, that kind of like lemony, like capers, saltiness. Then there's like some classic stewed meats dishes there. So you get like put olives and cooking with white wine a lot, or a lot of braises. And this is like perfect for that. There's it depends on like if you eat everything or not. I don't want to like go down too far down, but it's like, I think of this, I think of tuna immediately for this wine too. It's just because, now you got me on Carpaccio train, but you could
You can do a tuna
could
carpaccio,
tuna,
absolutely.
or you could have it with a firmer meat like we just had it halibut, and we put like we used nuts a lot too. With this was like a pistachio caper salsa verde with a tuna, and it's just like that's all you need: a nice olive oil, fresh ingredients, and then if you put potatoes with that, I think that
Now
would be
we're
great.
now we're veering into salad niçoise territory. Then it seems.
It's true. I think that
I'm
would be
hearing
a great,
olives,
excellent balance.
potatoes, tuna. Like,
There you go. Yeah.
oh, that sounds delicious.
What I love about your descriptions with all the food for these wines is that you've been very general but also specific. Like so often we'll hear, well, it'll work well with roasted meats or a specific dish, and yet I'm sure everyone's like, I could do, as long as I've got olive oil and lemon, I could do anything.
Yeah, that's just so true. I think it's like a chemical like balance of flavors so often. When you have a nice tomato, you put the mozzarella and the basil with it, and there's a reason why that is a classic, right? So
Olives, throw out chicken Milanese. It's like one of my favorite. But
Ooh,
if you do like a lemon, caper, butter sauce, I mean, you
yes.
can put that on fish too. It goes really well with the Fiano. Really.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that light saute, having that little bit of oil, is gonna match with the roundness of the wine, but also that acidity cuts through, which is so important. So absolutely, that sounds delicious. Okay, let's move on to our last wine of the night, which is our red field blend that you guys have here. The only this is more of a California blend, so grapes coming from different areas. And it seems like one of the things I've noticed with the Tansy wines is the whites, the rosés, all very Italian focused, but the reds that we have mentioned so far, all much more leaning into the more traditional grapes of California, your Cab, your Pinot. Is that a stylistic choice, or is that again just the vineyards that you're sourcing from that you want to work with? These are the grapes that are available there.
I think a lot of it is, I think it's like vineyard specific, just where we go to visit a site and we're like, oh my gosh, like let's see how this goes. And then we've been able to sell those wines, like, and people have really enjoyed them. And that's a big part of wine that you see that, people that there's people enjoy
You have to
it.
have a customer.
Yeah, I will say though, like starting to do Nero Dabbler this year, we definitely see more of an opportunity to continue our search on the red side. This is not a 100% non-Italian. There is actually Ruche in this red blend.
Oh, okay.
really comes
Nice.
through. That's what makes it so aromatic. Yeah.
But it is not it's really a smaller percentage. So, but it has a very deliberate part in the blend or role in the blend. But but you're right. I think I think that we're starting to look at some different vineyards for like 2024 to see if there's some other opportunities for reds, because I mean there's so many amazing Italian varietals in the red zone.
Absolutely. Yes. So how did you, is this a true field blend for you guys?
Yeah. This actually came out of, this wine was really came out of a desire and need where we started selling a lot to restaurants at the beginning, and a lot of them were like, hey, I want to be able to pour your wine by the glass, but you don't have enough of it. And so we just really talked about how could we sort of blend something that had all the same ethos of like organic, sustainably farmed, but and then in talking, Shelley and I had many conversations. She's like, some of the best wines are like, the ones in Italy that aren't, or, don't have they're just really approachable, and they're table wines, so vino tabla. And so how do we make something that will pair perfectly with A16 pizza?
Yeah.
And that, can be a
Good,
great
good plug.
wine. Yeah.
Yeah, we have quite a few Italians that work with us, and we have primarily Italian wine, but we do have California wine as well. And when I first brought this in, I wasn't expecting them to like be as in love with it as they are, because I know we love it, but they were like, "Can we pour this?" And they like, and same with the Vermentino. When we have a couple people from Sardinia, and they're like sell it the most out of. I love how proud of it they are, and that they find it to be very approachable with our food. And yeah, it has a pretty aromatic part, but it is a great pasta wine. It's great. We think that there should be wine you can have every day, once a week, maybe something once a month that you're like, I'm gonna have. So this is a special bottle, and things that you open when you're celebrating. And so this is a wine we thought you can open every day and enjoy it. And you can, with the screw cap, you can easily have some of it and have some of it the next day or not. And it's also, so it travels a little easier, and it's good for that's good for by the glass as well. So we it's been a really, really fun addition, and I think it's important to have fun. That's how Kitty and I have always, we really enjoy wine and the culture of sharing wine and tasting wine and having wine with food. And so this is just a great expression of something that we would hope went well. And so far the response has been great on it. Hopefully everyone is enjoying it. Any feedback from everyone having a sip? I don't know what you're cooking, Pam, but
yeah, Pam, what are you cooking there?
It looks so good.
Yeah, we're having pasta with kind of end of season tomatoes from the farmers markets, some avocado on top, and
in honor of the California Italian theme.
there you go. I love it. You're on point, of course.
Capers, fresh oregano. It's good.
Beautiful.
It was good.
Fantastic. So is all the fruit from a single vineyard?
So this is sourced from 4 different vineyards.
Okay.
It is and we went through, it was interesting because this was our first time doing a blend as a team, Megan, myself, and Shelley. We tasted a lot of different blends, and it was really fun to see, actually, even, if you have learned anything new in your adult life, like blending was a new thing for me, like understanding how the different grapes play their role in the structure and like the journey of this the wine. That, I mean, just by moving things a few percentage points can change. And so this has got predominantly Malbec. We really love, like, that mid palate, where you take a sip and you're like, oh, this is kind of delicious. Malbec really delivers really well on that. And Megan had already, they do a 100% Malbec at Rhyme, and so we sort of looked at that as our base, and then blended into that is Grenache to give you a little bit more of that red fruit. There's also Zinfandel, which does grow in Italy, but and that will give you some of those like darker notes. And then it has Ruche, and the Ruche comes from a vineyard called the Soleto Vineyard, which is further south. I've got to remember the actual location.
It's in the Cienega Valley, just south of Hollister in San Benito County.
So that's right, San Benito.
Yes.
So I haven't actually been to that vineyard myself, but it is that's where the Ruche comes from, and that the floral notes all come from the Ruche. So it's even though it's only a small percentage, it feels quite prominent there. So That's the blend that's in there. Yeah, we just, it's kind of designed, when we were blending, we wanted it to have some structure, where you could really drink it by yourself, but by itself, or you could have it with a range of things that you will easily cook at home. One of our favorite things, to believe it or not, that this wine pairs with is like ribs. I'm just gonna say
True, barbecue. It's a good barbecue wine.
I can see
barbecue.
that. Yeah.
It's so good with some a little bit of char, like, so anything that you're throwing on that charcoal, or that char that you're going to get on meats is really great with this wine too. But it goes
It's
amazingly
good with
well.
salmon too.
Salmon, yeah.
Yeah.
So very different food options there.
Teriyaki.
Look at Chris.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. It's like
We've been talking a lot about red wine and fish, and it's definitely a thing.
Oh, absolutely. Just like, you can do white wines, certain white wines with, with meats if you want to. It absolutely, it makes sense. You drink what you want. There are natural pairings, but you can kind of drink whatever you want.
We do with a lot of vegetables we work with. Sometimes if you braise things like the chicories that you have, it gives it a little bitterness, and that makes it, and you add olives, and it helps it go really well with red wine, and you're putting it all together. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
So
Fiano.
Or Fiano. Fiano,
Fiano.
that's the thing. There's more than one option. There's
I heard
So-
you say olives, so.
yeah, olives.
So
Me
who was the
dreaming over here.
deciding vote on the blend, or did you
Shelley.
all?
Kitty's dad.
Shelley. My dad, when he came out, he was there.
Yeah.
He was like, "What if you put some Viognier in there?" We're like, "No, we're going Italian."
Tried it.
But it was definitely Shelley. We kind of did it all blind. So when we
Oh
got
no, this is a funny story actually. We were doing we were doing a what was that blue
Jazz
oh
Festival.
no, Jazz Fest. And we were at Silverado, and Kitty had samples from Megan that were blind, and A's and B's, and in the back of it, in a parking lot in the back of her car. She
The
looked at
last
the
round.
match, and
The
she
last
didn't
round.
tell me which one she liked better. Do you like A or B? But I picked the same. We picked the same one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Everyone, it was unanimous. It was blind as well, but it was really, Shelley had the final say on this one for sure.
Nice. So
Yeah.
this is a 22. Is this something that you're continuing with? And if so, is the blend going to stay similar? Is it something that's going to change up every year based on availability of fruit? Or how are you moving forward with this one?
That is such a great question. I think we've called it a blend just because now, like, with our working knowledge of really what the harvest and the growing season will produce, like, I think that the percentages of what we like the in the blend will vary year to year, but we're always going to be aiming for that same, like, medium plus bodied, like, blend that will have these different grape varietals in them, that will have structure, enough tannin, and be able to stand up to sort of the food pairings that we talked about. So yeah, I think it will vary, but stay reasonably true to its origins. Yeah.
Nice. And hopefully always keep Ruche in there, something obscure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really gave us a personality, this wine, in that blend. It's it's not always something you see in blends. Usually you see it on its own,
Right.
and where it grows in Piedmont in Italy. And but it kind of, there's something that is, you have taste memory. Some of the favorite things you can remember, some great memories come from things you tried. And this is one of those wines that once you smelled something like Ruche, you're like, that's Ruche, because it's very identifiable, and there's such a small percent, but it really comes through.
It's fantastic. So we talked to barbecue, and salmon, of course. Any other food pairings with this one?
So
Are we going for shawarmas?
Shawarma, that'll
Shawarmas
work.
or
Yeah,
kebabs,
yeah.
or yeah.
It's good enough for Thor and Iron Man. It's good enough for us, right?
Shawarmas.
And I love the change of pace on the labels with it being a field blend, the multiple wildflowers on there. That's both subtle and clever at the same time, which is my favorite type of humor.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
that's actually from
noticing.
the
Yes.
pepperwood. The pepperwood, if anyone's walked and done hikes in Sonoma, it's from the pepperwood forest, all those little those wildflowers collection. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So the other one not from a vineyard, not sourced from the vineyard. Is it all the same? And it's all the same artist who's doing these, or is it a different artist from that?
This
that
one is Naya Ants, so
Okay.
different artist, yeah.
But all members of that Feminine Botanical Society.
That's right.
Very cool. Very cool.
And they all know each other's work, so they know each other, and then they see they actually came to one of our pickup parties, and it was so cool because we know them independently, but to see them in the same room, and they would notice the differences of each other's work. So
So
really,
the members of the Female Botanical Society are all artists, all talented.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Botanical Society, is they all sketch flowers, probably.
Yeah. But we didn't.
I mean, all this talented, because I mean,
yeah.
Well,
They said-
they didn't use Eunice's work because she's not as good as the others. But yeah, I'm kidding.
no, I know you are.
So as we're rapidly approaching the 8 o'clock hour, we talked a little bit about the future of A16, but what do you two see as the future of Tansy? Is it staying at the same level? Are you, hoping to increase your overall volume? Would you like to see more varietals, more SKUs available? Where do you want Tansy to go? What's the 5-year plan here, ladies?
You know what's very exciting is that we're just going to start entering the California market on a wider basis with we just joined Springboard has a
Congrats.
distributor. Thank you. So Sybil and Liz are in Napa, and so that was one missing piece. That's kind of a big piece that we didn't have, and it's just starting this month. So they have the wherewithal and an incredible team to actually get the wine into markets and things and restaurants where we have friends, but it's we already work on this part of it, so you do need that component.
Yeah.
And so California, they're really focused on California, so we're hoping to get the wines out more broadly in California. I think that's right, Shelley. Yeah.
Springboard is between Texas and California, right? That's their two markets.
They're predominantly California. And so we figured, why not start in our home state?
Smart.
What's your total case production now?
Around 2,000 cases. Yeah.
And the first year you made how much?
300 cases.
Exponential growth in 5 years.
That's fantastic. I imagine, not the whole portfolio. I imagine some things like the Fiano, where you're only doing 90 cases. That one you're just holding for direct to consumer or your wine club or whatnot.
That's just for the Festival of Forgotten Grapes.
Perfect. You heard it here first. The exclusive place you can get the Fiano is at the Festival of Forgotten Grapes.
It's just for, those wines are really just for, I think, places like this. In all seriousness, people who really care and are passionate about some of these lesser known varietals, and then our wine club members. And so it's really great to see so many of you who have an interest.
Well, but I think to your point, if we do our job well and we grow the awareness of forgotten grapes, then maybe there will be more demand in your restaurants for them.
Yeah,
It's a complete cycle. I would agree with this.
Yeah,
Because the
Also-
only reason you can only sell them to small groups is that people just don't know about them, or they don't know to ask.
Yes.
That's the thing, is they just don't know to say, do you have, or what do you have, or, you just kind of assume, well, if you get your fruit from Sonoma, you must have Pinot Noir. Well, why not ask? What do you make?
wow.
Also,
Wow.
if I join the Tansy Wine Club, can I get tables at A16?
Yes.
Is that a perk of
It's-
being the club
yep,
member?
It is. It is. Anytime. Anytime.
Nice. You can just
If-
walk in and show your Tansy
If
card.
you have
Yeah.
not gone to A16, it is a treat.
Thank you.
It
Thank
is.
you.
Just get a seat at the bar.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Oh, yeah.
perfect.
That's it.
That's what it's meant for too.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We have a wonderful team. A lot of us, we've been open 21 years this month. So
That's
that's
amazing for a
I don't
restaurant.
know
With
how
so
that
many
happened, but it
restaurants
happened.
closing, that is really a testament.
Oh,
And rest assured, Chris, the one in the city is tiny. So, you know, if you don't have the Tansy card, the one in the East Bay is a lot larger and has a lot more room.
Yes. But what if my business is in the city? I got to use that
Okay.
Tansy card.
We
That's the
got
whole point.
reservations at the city one last year, and a few days out, and we had an amazing time.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. There's always we have reserved seats for walk-ins too, and so we want to be neighborhood and destination. We definitely.
Last question, Kitty, which wine goes best with Vegemite?
oh, that's so hard. I'm gonna have to be completely honest because I don't know. I haven't done it.
Rosé.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's do that.
Fiano,
I
it
want to
goes
do
with
that.
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You should.
That was
There you
my
go.
first thought because I'm always default Fiano. That's for real.
Yeah.
So
I'm sensing a blog post coming on the website soon enough.
Would you like to participate in this taste test? Chris, I feel like we could do this.
Absolutely. We'll do Marmite, we'll do Vegemite, we'll get all the mites together and throw them out there.
I have a question. You guys haven't plugged Apero in Napa.
Oh yeah.
Haven't heard a thing about that for the past hour and a half.
Oh, well, that's good. We're here to talk about Tansy, but we're happy to plug Napa. So Shelley and the team, and we're working on it. The space will be the old Miminashi space in downtown Napa, which is a fantastic location. There's plenty of parking, and it's great if you're up there visiting in wine country and you've gone out to vineyards, but you actually want a meal, and then you also want to keep exploring more wines. This is going to be an excellent destination. And so it's got a huge kitchen, an amazing bar. But we're in the process of the restaurant opening phase. So, everything from the designing, and right through to, I mean, Shelley, you've been working on all the hiring. So it's
oh
coming
my
in the
gosh,
next
the
month.
team, we're doing a tasting with the CDC, and I'm going to be there tomorrow. There's just amazing people.
You're doing a tasting with the Center for Disease Control? That seems.
Well, they all got fired, so they're all looking for
chef de
restaurant work.
cuisine. Sorry, this is the slang of our chef de cuisine. the
I know.
CDC. Yes, I could see how that could be.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a good test. If they sign off on it, you're all set.
Yeah, we had what brought to Napa, and what Jennifer was mentioning, we had like we had a friend who she has a spritz bar called Mom and Pop, and we were going to partner with her on that, and we opened, but there's some of the logistics of it wasn't we couldn't pour the tansy even though we had posted a sign. And then, but if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be now doing a full-blown restaurant parklet, because it was tight. It was a small space, like like very, very small. And now we're like putting a lot of energy and time into having it's gonna have like a parklet, that we're calling it like more like a patio, because it's pretty expansive for downtown Napa. And no, people have been amazing. Like some chef friends were asking us if we want pots and pans, and the neighbors like, do you need a coffee grinder? And so people, I mean, we've had like my friend's a sommelier here that is friends of friends, and so it's a very tight knit community, and it's coming up soon. So we thought we were gonna try to open quickly, but then now that you know, we're gonna say like start with a year project, but then now we have options on that year, and once you hire a full staff, you're like a full restaurant.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of go time at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Or else you're paying them to not cook and serve, which
That's right. And then I'll also say we'll do Tansy tasting flights, but with food. So if I mean, this is so much about Italian wines. They're really meant to be enjoyed with food. So we'll have the Tansy tasting flights by themselves, but also food pairings, and also more opportunities to try all of Shelley's amazing wine recommendations from Italy. And other local producers. So it's just being able to do I think that there's more avenues for that location.
it's great for Tansy to have a home too and be surrounded by food. It's just kind of like organically makes so much sense for us too. So
absolutely. Also sounds like it would be a great home for a, Prosecco style sparkling wine produced from California grapes. If only I knew somebody.
so great. And do you know, I could not get over your branding last year at the festival, Forgotten Grapes. It's brilliant. It's Kitty, you have to see this. But
The postcards are hilarious.
Thank you. Well, we bested the Italian government who came after us for our trademark. So
I believe it. Oh,
yes.
Really?
Yes, we are 1-up on the Italian government at this point. We're up 1-0 over Italy. So we'll take that into halftime at least.
I have to say, at the end of the day, it's not the greatest accomplishment. Italy loses every legal battle they have about wine.
Thank you for throwing cold water on everything, Allison. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, come on. They lost the black chicken to Gallo. They lost Tokai to the Hungarians. Can't call their grape Tokai that's named Tokai for a grape called Ferment for a style. They lose every battle they have when it comes to wine.
They did lose Prosecco to the Australians, and then just took their ball and went home and changed its name to Glera. But that's a whole other story.
But they did win against Paris Hilton with Prosecco. So.
Right. And they're offering homes for $1 in small villages. So if folks are up in your neck of the woods and want to do a tasting of Tansy before or after A16 is open, or if they want to get their hands on more or find out how they can join the Tansy Club, get that Tansy card and get the best table in the house just by walking in, what is the best way for folks to get in touch with you or pick up more bottles?
I think we have a website. You can sign up for the club there, but I think the more interesting thing would be to probably, you can contact Shelley or I directly. I'm happy for this group to offer that, and then we can, I can pass on our details to you, Chris and Allison, and
beautiful.
We can share that.
And don't forget, they'll both be pouring on March 29th, so you can see them in person.
That's right. We're very excited about that, the festival. So yeah.
They're scouting for A16 Los Angeles, the next iteration. You've conquered Northern California, now you got to come south. So
you never know.
I mean, there's a few spots in Central California in wine country that could use a good Italian restaurant. So keep it in mind.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. Well, at this point, thank you, everybody. As I mentioned, we will send out the replay of the virtual tasting tomorrow with a link, and we'll include Shelley and Kitty's emails there in case you want to get in touch with them, as well as the link to the Tansy website, so you can pick up some of the bottles there and find out more about their upcoming releases, including that Nero d'Avola, which sounds very, very exciting. Next month, the email will be coming out next Tuesday or Wednesday, as I mentioned. It's going to be the Rourke Wine Company down in Santa Barbara, Los Olivos area. Very fun, small winery who has been doing it, gosh, as long as I had my wine shop back in 2010, 2011. I used to carry some of their wines. So different style, very, very fun winery. Ryan Rourke is quite a character, so we're excited to have him. And at this point, go ahead.
And worth jumping in on that one because they are not able to join us at the Festival of Forgotten Grapes, so it will not be double duty.
There you go. Yes, it's your last shipment before the festival rears its big head on March 29th. So we're excited to see you then. At this point, Shelley and Kitty, if you can stick around for a couple of minutes, we can unmute and see if anybody has any questions for you, if you guys can do that. Perfect. So if anybody wants to unmute,
No,
go ahead.
I'll
No.
just say something. Thank you guys so much. I loved meeting both of you at the wine house in West LA last year, and
Oh
then
my gosh.
seeing you at Bouvet. I mean, not Bouvet's Vintage, and then Forgotten Grapes. But I'm taking the rest of my my Tansy wines to the desert this weekend to introduce 3 of my girlfriends to Tansy.
Thank you so much. You're amazing. Thank you. How much
You
fun.
guys had me
Yeah.
at literally Vermentino, the Red Blend, and the Fiano at the wine house. Honestly, I mean, you totally had me.
It's so fun.
So
Thank
good to
you.
see you. It was so good to see you when I saw you pop on the on the Zoom. I was like, I remember Jennifer.
I just wanted to add that since we've moved to California, we always urge our friends to come and visit by telling them we live in the Italy of America.
Exactly.
Well, these wines have added weight to our argument.
See?
Because
agree with this.
it's not just the grapes, the grape varieties themselves. I mean, there's really nice. When I tasted the Vermentino, the first thing that popped into my head was balance. It's just perfectly balanced. I loved it. We liked all of them.
Yeah, they were great.
I heard there's a proposal to rename the Italian peninsula the American peninsula. But I don't know if it'll happen or not. So.
Are your wines, are Tansy wines served in Southern California restaurants at all, anywhere?
Not too many, just like a handful of restaurants in LA. And that was a really big part of starting to work with Springboard, because essentially they're across like all of California, and particularly in Southern California, that Shelley and I'd really been, as a new company and a startup together, we'd really been doing a lot of hand selling ourselves.
We did an event with Carolyn and Suzanne at AOC Brentwood.
Yeah.
And that was, so they may still have some there. And
Saw you at AOC at a dinner where you were signing your book.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and then there is a few restaurants, but we're since we're up here, have a bit more presence, but I think that between now and summer, there'll be some placements down there. So we're very excited about that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I have a question.
And it doesn't
Go
matter.
ahead, Christine.
I was chasing my 4-year-old, so I missed it. What are the varietals in the red field blend?
So it's I can read what Shelley wrote. It's 86% Malbec, 5% Grenache, 4% Ruche, and 5% Zinfandel. Yes.
But that Ruche really comes through with that aromatics.
Beautiful.
All
right,
these wines are amazing. We met you guys last year at Festival of Forgotten Grapes, and so excited to have you back. And we had several wines after Festival of Forgotten Grapes, and they're delicious. The labeling, the marketing, the labels, the font, the flowers, it all is, I mean, it's beautiful on shelves. It's spot on. It actually pairs perfect with what's in the bottle. So it's fantastic. I'm excited to see you guys again. And thank you so much. It's delicious.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for joining. It's really fun for us to sit and taste them and have a conversation and meet new friends and see familiar faces we had a lot last year when the book came out, and we were able to have different evenings where we're talking about, wine and food, and mostly wine at that point. So I'm glad that everyone's enjoying them. We have a focus and a point of view with it, and we want everyone to really feel like they're having an Italian grape here, and not like we're not trying to make Chardonnay from Vermentino. It's trying to make Vermentino.
Right. No, and that's important, and that's going to make it easier to get your wines into the shops with the distributor, is having that point of view that makes it a really easy sell for those distributors to say, here's the 30-second elevator pitch on exactly what Tansy Wines are.
Doesn't hurt to say Shelley Lindgren, A16.
Sure.
We like our wine at A16. We like our food.
You take every advantage you can get.
You have to trust somebody who drinks wine and sells wine and knows that, because you have to make wine that you would drink and would sell. So
right.
There's a trust in that.
So the Nero d'Avola, is that something that you have harvested and have it in barrel now, or?
Yeah.
Nice. What's the target release on that? How long are you going to be aging that for?
No, probably I think we'll probably release it in the fall this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Perfect.
Not in time for March.
No.
If you haven't gotten
March
a copy of
26th.
Shelley's book, it's so fantastic.
Mhm.
Sorry, I have to keep plugging you because
I was gonna say, Jen,
I mean, really,
if you're their PR agent, you have to disclose that.
I'm not. But honestly, if you want a great resource and a fun read, I started listening to the Audible, and I'm like, okay, when can I just book a plane to Italy?
Exactly.
It takes you right there.
Okay, the Audible, we're Kate and I, it was our third book together, and we and she writes books. She worked at A16, and that was her very first cookbook, and then she's done dozens and dozens of books, but she's so great. And she was just with David Leibovitz in Paris, and he's having her do some writing for him, who's a great writer already. She's just that kind of person. But the Audible, there's a woman named Carlota who does the perfect accent. She's speaking English, but she's really Italian. So when the Italian words come up, she just Chianti, everything's sharp and to the point, and I'm just obsessed with her. Thank you for me not being the voice on that, because I would not have done that pronunciation as spot on.
I have the book too, and I want to do it as a read along. because she speaks it so perfectly, you can't figure out how to spell it.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I've been years of being corrected in the restaurants, that now we everything we say, we're very careful.
Beautiful. All right. Well, if there's no other comments, I think we can end the recording and say goodnight to everybody. So thank you two so much for being here. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time. This is wonderful. We will see you at the end of March at the Festival of Forgotten Grapes, and we'll see all of you hopefully in March, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Buonasera.
Thank you.
Buonasera.